why I'd want to work with people who were dying. It must be very depressing, it must be very sad.
I think you get to see the power of the human spirit when you work in palliative care.
I just feel very privileged.
What it is it's very real.
You know, the people who are dying, they give me more energy. They teach me so many lessons.
It's emotions, actually, that's what it is.
We look after people who have a serious illness. Up until recently, it would have been predominantly a diagnosis of cancer or motor neuron disease or AIDS that is expanding. The people that we look after aren't getting curative treatment anymore, so their illness is terminal. What we hope to do is to just make them as comfortable as we possibly can.
And we offer counselling and psychosocial support around the impact of illness, the changes that are happening, and we might help around financial issues, practical issues, but a lot is around communication, around preparing people for what maybe is going to happen, around the impact of care, the changes that have already happened as a result of illness, and an opportunity to express how they're feeling.
So as people come to the end of their lives, it's often a time where they're upset, they're distressed, or some of their family members might be upset. And so I'm a person they can come and talk to about their internal life, how they feel and how they think, primarily within themselves.
So one of the things when you begin to work in palliative care is you realise that the majority of people you meet will die. And they will die within the coming days, weeks or months. So you know, and you begin to work towards that end with people. Last year in our inpatient unit, about 270 people died. So it's a very normal part of our daily and weekly work life that somebody has died, and it's somebody that we've worked with or somebody we've developed a relationship with. But you develop it at a level, you're not emotionally connected to them the way you would be a friend or a family member.
There's always a touch of awe about somebody dying, because it is such an ultimate moment. There is no coming back from it. There's no rehearsing it. There's no doing it over again. So I think, depending on our own philosophy or belief system, it will be a moment. It is a sacred moment.
And sometimes on those days, it can hit. And it might be because it resonates with another loss that I've had before, or it might be because of the relationship that you develop, because I think all of this work is about relationship. I don't know that I'd say it overwhelms me, but I think there are times where the emotions definitely come to the fore and you need some space and time. It's not like you can come out of a room and say, that's fine, I'm into the next person. So you do sometimes need to take a bit of time.
Having a conversation with a mother in relation to her son, who would have been 8 years of age, was being tube fed and he was actively dying. And because of the feed, it was overloading his system. So it was causing him his problems, and he was going to have an uncomfortable death if it continued. So I had to speak to his mother about stopping his feed. And to speak to a mother about stopping feeding their child is, for the mother, she couldn't believe I was suggesting that. And I had to explain. In palliative care and in hospice care, you're constantly, it's balancing the burden of something and the benefit of something.
Oh, I've cried lots of times, when a patient has died or, something has been particularly difficult. I think we all do. And I think here it's acknowledged that that's okay. It's okay to cry and it's okay to be upset and to feel. Because I don't think, again, no more than you couldn't do this job if you didn't feel for people,
Sometimes that hits so much, you need to just take a few minutes, and your colleagues are really good for debriefing, just allowing you to say, actually, that was tough. or I really felt that, or my heart goes out to that person. But our professional piece has to be there as well. But I think there is a great teamwork and support across the range of colleagues.
Love has its limits as well, that we have to be quite disciplined in how close we get to people, and equally how distant we are from people.
If I've had a difficult day and I go into the office to write up my notes, somebody might notice and say, Anna, what kind of a day had you? And it might be the day that I had, I was touched by whatever was going on. Or I'd have noticed myself with some of the other staff, they might come in and I say, oh, what kind of a day? And they go, I'll tell you what happened. So it's that sense of being able to take it back out of the box, as it were, and look at it at another time. And I guess that's what keeps us, hopefully, present to the patient, who we are actually here to be with and to serve as best we can.
We mind each other a lot. So we function as a team, and if somebody felt they were getting too close, we would really be encouraging that they talk to their manager, they talk to me, they talk to one of the senior social workers. So we would have flagged it in their training already.
We do this every day. We'd often think about how it impacts our perspective. I think the biggest thing is, to work in palliative care, you need to begin to really get to know yourself at a deep level, because doing this work will bring up so many things. So lots of what we need to do is think about that as well. And that's where the self-development, self-awareness and the changes in perspective all come together.
We deal with sadness all the time, and families' sadness because they're losing somebody, and the person that we're caring for, their sadness because they're dying and they're leaving their family and they're leaving their life. But within that, even still, we still see the positive things, even within that sad situation. We can still see that there are things to be achieved and to be celebrated. And I think if it was to become a depressing thing where I was feeling sad all the time about what I did, I think that would be time to go then, because then then you kind of lose focus then, and it just becomes more about you than it does about the people that you're looking after.
When somebody dies, there's always a sadness, within us. But there's also, if I feel that, I have helped them even in a little way, there's always that sense of rejoicing, that hopefully it has given them hope for what is about to happen. And also I would hope, one of the things I would always hope for with the people are a sense of inner peace.
Yeah, I think anyone working in the area would always say that the stresses of it are balanced by the rewards of it, because you just get such satisfaction out of supporting people doing that part of their lives, managing that part of their lives, so I think it's very satisfying.
We had a lady who had played in a band in pubs. I can't remember if she sang or if she played an instrument, but there was herself and two friends, and they would go to the same pub every weekend and they played music, and she loved it. And she had two daughters and they were quite young, and they were very upset by their mum going, and she had been kind of in an unresponsive state for maybe a few days before, but I had gotten to know her, and I knew how important this music was to her. And I just asked her daughters if they could arrange for her two friends to come in with whom she played every weekend. And we organised for them we have a big sitting room, and there's a TV and couches in there, so we kind of cleared all that back. And her two friends came in with their instruments and some other musicians, and we brought her bed down to the sitting room, and they played for her, and they played stuff that she would have played with them before, and they had just had the most wonderful night. And then she died that night, or early the following morning, and it was just beautiful, because it was just, she kind of went out from the world in the same way that she had been in it,
I can think of one teenager I worked with, and one of my big memories is when she drew out some of some pictures on the whiteboard about her grief, and she had 2 people who died, and she was able to talk a bit about, actually she now understood a lot more about what was normal in grief, about coping, about the fact that her grief for each person was different, but yet she loved them both equally. And so there's moments like that where after weeks and weeks of work you get to a point and you think, okay, they've got it now. I know they'll cope. They'll be sad, they'll be upset, they'll have hard days. But I knew in that moment that she was going to do okay.
I was bringing a patient out. We were going on a trip for the day. And this lady was in a wheelchair. And I was wheeling her in Howth, just up the road here. And there was a tree, a beautiful blossom tree. And she said, Barbara, look at the tree. And I looked at the tree and I said, yeah, that's lovely. And she said, stop the wheelchair. You glanced at the tree. I want you to look at it. So she made me stop and look at the tree. And I remember when I looked at the tree, I saw that the blossoms had blossoms and they had blossoms on it. And it was really intricate and I had missed it because I glanced. And she told me that, and I've heard this a number of times from patients, that in her illness, that she looked at everything differently. So when she looked out and we look and we see trees out there, like she really looked at the trees. She took it all in. She looked at the sky, the colour of the sky, and she felt she was living a fuller life actually as a result of her illness. And it just really stayed with me. I tried to take everything in.
I think working in palliative care, you meet people of all different types, and what you do see is how fragile life can be. And it really makes me take each day and appreciate the things that I have, and knowing that I need to make the most of them today, because I don't know what the future will bring.
I think you manage it because you know you make a difference. And I think so it's bigger picture stuff. When you know you've helped someone with pain and symptom control or some psychosocial issues or whatever, helping the family, that's what helps you. You make a difference, and I think that's huge.
Knowing that we have helped people to live, even in the face of a dying that's coming soon, that there is still value in their life and there's still joy and even celebration sometime and happiness and, you know, reconciliation and all sorts of things. So all of those things, to know the knowledge that I can be involved even in a small way in that for even one person, let alone all of the people that I've nursed, is just, you know, you can't really describe how important it is.
You know, people talk about hospice dying, but it's not. Hospice is about living while people are dying. And I think that's the difference. It's about making the most of every moment of every day.
I think it's very important to see it as natural. You know, this is what life is. That dying is part of living. So if you have a philosophy that incorporates death, that it's not an insult, it's not a trauma, it's not unusual. You've got to have a philosophy that sees it as very much part of the cycle.
Dying does come to everybody and it can't be avoided. It's not something to be afraid of, no.
I remember one day a particular lady who had been reared as a Catholic but had given up on God, and going into her actually, you know, a very, very short time before she died. And I just said to her, I said, you know, Patricia, I feel when you open your eyes after death, you'll just go, wow. And she looked straight into my eyes and she said, thank you, Anna. And that was it.